Hi, I'm Richard Rogers, and I absolutely hope that you enjoy today's spiritual message. You know, we at Unity of Phoenix Spiritual Center are committed to helping people live better lives. We're going to provide you tools over and over, spiritual tools that allow you to live your best possible life. And if you want to leave a donation to continue to allow the work that we do to support other people just like you, we say thank you. Thank you for your generosity, because this ministry is committed to making the world a better place.
Okay, so this is the fourth week in this series of opening your mind to receive. And how many of you feel like that you've been open and receptive to all the good that God has for you? 3 of us. Okay, great. 4 of us. Right? Fabulous. Fabulous. Love my job. Love my job. Right? So I want to really look at what it would take for you to receive more. And I want you to really look at the places in your life where you have felt stuck. Right? Because feeling stuck is not fun. Has everybody had that feeling of feeling stuck in your personal life or your financial life, in your relationships, wherever, in your work, where you feel stuck? And it doesn't always make sense. Because there's 3 premises that we've been working on in this series, right? The idea that God is infinite, right? We all believe that God is infinite, that we have a connection to that God, a connection to the infinite, and that we get to decide how blessed we are. Those are the 3 premises that I've been playing with all this whole time, is that God is infinite, I'm connected to the infinite, and I get to decide how blessed I am. Now, if that's true, if I get to decide how blessed I am, why would I ever feel stuck? Right? If I get to decide how blessed I am, that doesn't even make sense, because if I get to decide, why would I ever decide to be stuck? Right? Why would I ever decide to limit myself? Why would I ever decide to live a life that's not satisfying? And one of the premises that I've been working with for the last year or so, right? The idea, this is your soul, right? And the soul only does 1 or 2 things, right? You all know this, you should be able to say this in your sleep. It either expands or contracts, right? That's all the soul does. So that's all the soul does. It either expands or it contracts. When we're expanding, it creates more room to be blessed. True? If we're contracted, it's harder and harder for us to be blessed. Then the question becomes, what causes us to contract? How many want to vote for fear causes us to contract? Right? That every time we're in a place of fear, we're contracted, right? Every time we're in a place of love and joy and peace, we're expanded, and it makes more room for us to be blessed. So what I want us to really focus on is, how many of you would say that you're willing to grow? Most. Great. How many of you would be willing to say you're willing to change? More, almost as many, right? How many of you would be willing to say, I don't know? Would be willing to be in a place of, I don't know? Okay, we dropped numbers dramatically with that one, right? How many of you would be willing to feel out of control to grow? More? So you'd be willing to be out of control as long as you understand it. That's kind of the premise that you're working on, right? Okay, so I have a visual. I've been working on this visual all day. It actually gave me a headache from working on this visual. Okay? Oh, it's only water. It's okay. Yes, it did. Ready? Let's see what happens. It worked so well at home. Wait. Okay. Now, do you see the problem? Right? Do you see the problem? Right? So what's this? It's a balloon. I know it's a balloon. Thank you. Wow. Vacation in 43 minutes. I'm gonna start right now if we don't take this room up a bit, all right? So what is this? I know you think it's a balloon. It's our soul. Thank you, because that's all our soul does, right? Is expand or contract. Now, what is this? Oh, rah, 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 rah. And they murmur. What is a glass vase? Right, I know. Giant room, right? So what is this, right? This represents all of your limitations. Okay? So could the soul become any bigger than the limitations? Now, what's the defining characteristic of this vase? It breaks. Yes, it does. But what's the defining characteristic of this vase? It's made of? What's one of the qualities of glass? I know it breaks. We've covered that. Let's move on. That's another quality. You can see through it. Good. Thank you. So, man, I'm going to work on this last one, aren't I? Right? So this glass vase is transparent. Now, why would that be important if I'm talking about limitations? You can't see them. Thank you. Right? So the whole premise is that our soul, excuse me, I'm just going to kick this out of the way so I don't. The whole premise is that our soul has this infinite elasticity, right? But it can only become as big as our limitations allow it, and we can't see our own limitations. How many of you know that you can see your family and friends or your spouse's limitations better than they can see their own? Right? So the whole premise is our limitations look invisible to us. They look invisible because we've been living in those limitations for so long that we don't even see them. They're like water to a fish. They're not there. We don't see them. We don't notice them. We just experiencing the pain of them, right? And so how do you know where you're limited in your life? It hurts. There's discomfort. There's pain, right? So what happens is, this is your spirit. Okay? Your spirit is light. Right? So the light of you shines through your soul, and you see it in three-dimensional form. Okay? So the way you see your boundaries is reflected in the world. Does that make sense? So when you see your checking account, and you go, well, that's not an infinite expression of God, right? Or you get a report from the doctor and you go, well, that doesn't look like an infinite expression of God, right? So what happens is you can't see your own limitations in yourself, but you see them reflected in the world around you. And when you see them reflected in the world around you, then you realize, oh, that's not really the life that I want. That's really not the experience that I want to create. That's a limitation that isn't really soul satisfying to me. And at that point, you could actually begin to heal. Because without that, if we didn't have three-dimensional form, if you were just somewhere out in space somewhere, you would never be able to see the reflection of your limitations. Because if you didn't have three-dimensional form, it's only in form that you actually get to see where you're limited, because it's reflecting all around you. So tonight, would you be willing to allow the reflection of your limitation to be transformed by the power of God in your life? Because I guarantee that you're seeing your limitations over and over and over again, not in yourself, but in the life that you created. The difficulty is when we begin to think the limitations of our life are preordained, or that because of that we're only this good, or because it's preordained by God that we're only supposed to be so blessed. Every time we think it's a fixed system, like this is just the way it is. How many of you were raised in a family that had a family belief that said, this is just the way it is? Right? Whether it was financial or health or relationship, so families come in with an idea that this is just the way it is. And it tends to be passed down from generation to generation that this is the way it is. But it's just your family's glass vase. It's not real. It feels real. When you're bumping up against it, when you feel the limitation of it, it looks real. But what I want you to see is that this can absolutely be transformed if you pay attention to what's showing up in your life, but realizing it's not your life. See, anybody ever had a bad boss? Right? Now, how many of you wanted to blame your bad boss on your boss? Right? Because it's his fault or her fault that she's such a bad boss. Right? But what I want you to see is, where's the problem? In your vase, in your limitation, in your belief system. And so until we heal this, we're going to keep creating. Has anybody ever dated the same person more than once? Right? And you met him, you might even have married him more than once. And it wasn't really the same person, but you married the same characteristics over and over again until you could heal the limitation that you accepted. And then once you heal it, you're set free. And what I want you to see tonight is, I want this to be interesting to you. I want there to be a level of curiosity that there's a belief system, there's a structure, there's a limitation that is compacting your soul to the point where life sometimes isn't enjoyable to you. And I want that to be so interesting to you that you're willing to invite the Holy Spirit right there to heal the thing that is keeping your soul limited. Because I know over and over again that that's the thing that's going to change everything. Reading from the chapter, we're focusing on growth and expansion. The word growth means to expand, to increase in size, or to develop toward maturity. You've been given the gift of growth and expansion as part of your inheritance of an unlimited good. By understanding the process of growth, it is easier to accept good and to expand into it more quickly. Everyone is growing toward maturity, though they may not know it. Once you put your foot on the inner path, the spiritual path, you learn about the power of thought as a tool for your good. Your growth can be accelerated. It will help you recognize and understand the phases that you go through to grow, and that your growth does not have to be accompanied by pain. So, what's the role of pain? What's that? It gets your attention, but it shows you a pinch, right? So every place where you're in pain in your life or in discomfort, what I want you to see is that's a place where you know your soul wants more, and your belief system, your understanding of life, your experience of life is pinching your soul to the point that it hurts. And I want to break through right there, because that's actually the place where we need it the most. Got the dropsies. Can you wait? I want you to write this down. My life cannot be limited. Okay? And what I want you to say that with me, will you? My life cannot be limited. One more time. My life cannot be limited. Is that spiritually true? Right? As a spiritual being, is there anything that can really limit your life? What's the only thing that has permission to limit your life? Yourself, right? So it's spiritually true that my life cannot be limited unless I decide it can be, right? But what I want you to do, part of your homework for tonight, is I want you to make a list of everything you've... I'm going through puberty one more time, right? I want you to make a list of everything that you have believed could limit you. Your age, your education, how much money you have, your relationships. I want you to make a list of everything that you have believed could limit you, because that's a part of your glass ceiling. That's a part of your limitation. my life cannot be limited is a spiritual truth, but we have limited ourselves over and over again. We have learned to limit ourselves over and over again. And what I want you to do is make a list of all the stories, all the drama, all the ways that you actually believe that you could be limited, so that you can invite Spirit right there to transform each and every one of those situations, so that you can have a breakthrough that is actually big enough for your soul. In Unity, do you know what we call that kind of a statement? You know what we call that kind of statements? Come on. No, close. It's called a denial. You know what the difference between a denial and an affirmation is? An affirmation is a statement of truth, spiritual truth. A denial in a spiritual context, not in a psychological denial. A psychological denial is I don't have cancer, and then I die of cancer, right? What in a spiritual context, what a denial is it's a removal of the power that anything could keep you from God, that anything could keep you from good. So this statement, my life cannot be limited, that's a denial. It's saying that nothing can keep me from God. Now, when you're working with a denial, what you also have to be oftentimes also work with an affirmation. So I want you to create an affirmation that would go along with this statement. My life cannot be limited because I'm a child of God, because I have access to the infinite, because I'm downloading the divine, because I am more and more blessed each and every day, right? So I want you to clear all the erroneous counter beliefs that you have about all the things that you thought could limit you. And I want you to hold to the spiritual truth that you're an unlimited expression of God. Because in this idea of growth and expansion, your soul has been wired by God for total, complete, crazy level of expansion. We just have to get you out of your own belief system, out of your own story, out of your own drama, out of your own issues, out of your family story, out of your family drama, out of all the things that have kept you in a small little box that kept you feeling cramped and limited because your soul didn't come for that. Okay? Are you with me? Is this making sense? Great, fantastic. For both of you, I appreciate it. So how do we grow our life? Yes, we go, yes. First one is, what does that say? Plant seeds. Can you read that? Plant seeds, right? The number one way that we begin to plant seeds on our life. Now, how do we do that spiritually? How do you spiritually plant seeds? How many of you have ever been a farmer or a gardener and planted seeds? Like planted seeds, real seeds, not just things that were already halfway there, but actual seeds, right? So what happens when you plant a seed? You take a little itty bitty thing, and where does it go? In the dirt. Can you see it when you put it in the dirt? And then what do you do when it's in the dirt? You put more dirt on top of it, right? Maybe a little fertilizer, hopefully a little water, right? And you actually trust that that little itty bitty thing that you cannot see is going to actually grow, right? You pray over it. Great, right? You can put music to it. You know, there's all kinds of research. You can dance happy dances around it, whatever you do. But the idea is that you've got to put it in a place where it actually has what it needs to grow, and you don't get to see it. Now, why is that spiritually valid? Because when you're planting spiritual seeds, we have the tendency, because of a lack of faith, to want to see instant manifestation. How many of you would like to have instant manifestations? Right? So every time you condemn yourself, you want to have an instant manifestation of that. Or every time you say something bad about another person, you want to have an instant manifestation of that. So the problem is, when we're inconsistent, the universe gives us time to build what we really want, not what we want in the moment. As we begin to mature, it actually takes less time from planting a seed for that seed to grow spiritually. But when we're all over the place, the universe isn't really sure what we really want from moment to moment because we're all over the place. So the first thing we do is we plant seeds. How do we plant seeds? How do you do that really spiritually as a hands-on activity? How do you do that spiritually? Meditation, great. Intention, great. How about anybody want to vote for visualization? Okay, so what I want you to do is I want you to spend 5 minutes every night visualizing the life that you want. And the way that you do that is I want you to both see it and feel it. Okay? That's your soil and your water, is see it and feel it. I want you to spend 5 minutes every night before you go to bed visualizing the life that you want and clothing it with as much feeling, as much vivid color of imagination as you can create, so that every night before you go to bed, you are planting seeds for the life that you want. Now, will some of the seeds that you plant be bigger than the vase or the belief system that you have now? Yes. In fact, the more you plant seeds of the life that you want, it is actually going to be the thing that disrupts the vase. Eventually, it's going to have to break open for you to have a bigger life because your new life won't fit in the small container that you have right now. So every night, when you're visualizing the life you want, when you're filling it with emotion and thought and feeling, and you can see it, you think, man, this is great. I love it. This is my life. I'm digging it. It's working, right? You do the whole thing, right? You get into the whole feeling of it. And the more you do that, you're planting seeds in your soul that will grow and that are going to crush your old belief system. It actually destroys your own old belief system. That's why you have to feel it. So you plant seeds. And then what do you have to do? After you plant the seeds, after you visualize it, then what do you have to do? Can you read that? My pen is dying. Wait. Can you read that better? No, you don't have to turn it down. Right? You have to wait. Now, why is waiting important? Because there's a gap between the time you set an intention and by the time you see the manifestation of that intention, there's a gap. And that gap is 100% about your ability to hold anything in faith. Because if you can't hold it in faith, if you get discouraged, if you can begin saying, well, that'll never happen, guess what's happening to your envision, to your spiritual work that you do? You just threw it away. You just went and picked up all the seeds that you just planted the day before and wanted to check to see if any of them were growing. How many farmers, after they plant a seed, go back the next day and check on it? No, you wait. And they have the faith to know that if they plant good seeds, and if it gets enough water, if it gets enough sunshine, if it gets enough warmth, that everything that seed will need to grow into its new experience is available. And the same is true for you. That when you plant a seed with faith and are willing to wait on God, your manifestation is guaranteed. Your manifestation is guaranteed. But you have to wait in faith. And that, for some of us, is the hardest thing. Because if we don't see instant gratification, if we don't see it instantly manifesting, we want to throw it out. And tonight, what I'm going to invite you to do is plant the seeds that you want, be willing to have the faith to wait, and then what I want you to do is I want you to begin to time the harvest, right? Because in this time of harvest, I want you to begin, so the third is harvest. Now, how do we harvest our good? 2 ways. Harvest your good. When you begin to see good popping up, sprouting up in your life, what's your job? How do you harvest that? Gratitude, and you have to acknowledge God. because that's how you build your faith. So what happens to so many people is when the good begins to sprout in their life, they don't notice the prayer that they prayed a week ago or a month ago or 6 months ago. They see the good sprouting in their life and they go, well, either they don't notice it, they don't give thanks for it, they don't acknowledge God, and it doesn't build their faith. That over and over again, what I want you to see is I actually want you to have a vision of the life that you're creating and all the baby steps along the way where all the blessings begin to nurture and come and grow and bless you. I want you with each one to acknowledge that was God, that was you doing your spiritual work. That you actually put the time, the spiritual time and energy into a vision for your life. And now that it's sprouting, I want you to acknowledge God as the source and acknowledge the spiritual work that you did so that you can really appreciate it. Because if you don't notice the good, your faith isn't increased. But if you notice the good, if you see it sprouting over and over again in all areas of your life, you're going to be willing to plant even bigger seeds. You're going to be more dedicated to your private time of planting more and more seeds, and you're going to see a bigger and a bigger harvest. Like right now, I want you to take just a baby step. Even if you only planted one seed tonight, if there's just one aspect of your life where you would be willing to live a bigger life, and you hold on to that, just about one seed, you plant it, and you let it be, but you just come back to it every night. You see it. You feel it, you know it, just that one seed. And then every step you take, every time you see that thing sprouting, acknowledge God. You're going to have more faith. Before you know it, you're going to have soybeans and green beans and okra beans or whatever those things are. Growing up in California, man, I did not farm, right? But you're going to be planting over and over and over again a bigger life. And the good news is your soul is going to have to expand to hold it. That the whole purpose of the universe, Jesus said, it's the Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. I want you to really hear that. That every time you accept a bigger life, God rejoices. It's the Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. And every time you plant seeds and they grow a bigger life in you, your soul becomes more radiant, more expressed, more passionate about life. The whole universe wins. And then you become a model for all the people around you thinking, well, if she can do it, I can do it. If he can do it, I can do it. Because your life becomes the living testimony of how good God is. So tonight, we're going to begin with one thing. You're not going to plant a whole garden tonight. Tonight, you're going to pick one kind of seed. If you want abundance, we're going to plant abundance. If you want more loving relationships, we're going to plant more loving relationship. If you want a new job, we're going to plant one seed. And we're going to let that one seed, we're going to visualize it, we're going to feel it, we're going to see it, we're going to know it every night. We're going to plant that seed every night. And when we go to bed, we're going to let the universe, and we're just going to walk in faith, knowing there's going to be a time for harvest, and that time will be when God's ready. Actually, what it is when we're ready to receive it. Because could God create whatever you desire in an instant? Yes. Do you have some issues? Yes. Do we all have issues? Yes. So we plant the seeds. It grows in our soul. And when it's time, it's manifest all around us. Will you pray with me? I want you to open your mind and your heart to the activity of God. That your soul is so alive, so healthy, so fabulous, that whatever you plant in your soul, it will grow. If you plant more lack and limitation, more drama, more stories, more hatred, more pain, it will grow. If you plant more love and abundance and joy and greater opportunities and aliveness, it will grow. That tonight, I want you to pick the seed. I want you to pick the thing that you want to grow in your life. And I want you to plant the seeds. Every night before you go to bed, I want you to plant the seeds. I want you to spend just 5 minutes every night seeing the life that you desire, with all the feeling and color and texture that you can imagine. And so I want you to give thanks even before you see the results, even before you see the first sprouts. But when you do see the sprouts, I want you to acknowledge God. I want you to see that as answered prayer. That you did the spiritual work and it's now working on behalf of your life. So tonight we give thanks. And we know that there's only one presence and one power at work in our lives, God the good. And we totally focus our mind, our heart, our soul on the direction of our greater good. So in all things we look to God, and in all things we give thanks. And so it is. Amen.